Okay, so good afternoon and welcome to a new virtual meeting of DirectoINTEF. This event is part of the INTEF course titled Digitally Competent Educational Organizations, a MOOC designed based on the Digital Competent Educational Organization framework developed by JRC Joint Research Center. My name is Victor Perez, and I will moderate this session today as part of the dynamization activities of this MOOC. Yesterday, we had the opportunity to run a second meeting with two of the authors of the course, Linda Castañeda and Fernando Trujillo, this time organized for the Spanish-speaking community, which was the rerun of the virtual meeting we had a couple of weeks ago in the English-speaking community. But today, we have with us Kampylis on behalf of the JRC, who will present SELFIE, a tool developed by the Joint Research Center to help educational centers in achieving better student learning of the digital world. Good afternoon, Pan.
Hi, Victor. Hello, everybody.
Okay, it's a pleasure to have you here today with us.
The same for me, because always for me it's very important to be with people, the teachers and the other experts of education. It's very important to have this opportunity to discuss and exchange ideas and ideas and experiences.
That's good. So yes, in fact, today we are. You will explain us more about SELFIE, but we will also leave the floor to the people that are the attendees that are at home and they are looking at us at this moment, and they can send their questions in Twitter with hashtag #TeachCompOrg. So I think I believe the best way to introduce yourself is with a map that shows your personal and professional background. Would you mind showing it to us?
Okay, yes, thank you. As you can see in the map, I don't know if the people can see now the map. Actually, I'm a Greek teacher and school head. That I have done my PhD in Finland, in a Finnish university, a PhD about creativity in education. And then I found myself working in Spain, in Seville, in a research center of European Commission in order to support policies for education and skills across Europe.
Okay, that's good. So you have traveled a bit and you have moved around Europe, so you know what's happening in education in Europe also.
Yes, because as I said, I have experience as a primary teacher, a music teacher, a school head, author of textbooks. I have 2 daughters. I work as a researcher the last 10 years. So I have, let's say, quite holistic experience about education and in different also countries, in Greece, in Finland, in Spain, in some other countries as well.
That's right. But let's focus more on what we were talking today. It's a SELFIE tool. So before we start talking about the tool, I would like to remind you again that to all the audience, you can use Twitter and you can use the hashtag #TeachCompOrg. If you want to make us any question, just go there and our team will take it and we will make this question to Pan. That way we will try to answer and help you on that. So Pan, can you tell us how the SELFIE appears? What's the origins of SELFIE, and how is it related to the DirectoINTEF framework?
Yeah, very good point. Yes, actually, I don't know if you can see one slide. This is the only slide I am going to use today. Because in this slide, you can see exactly this connection between DirectoINTEF and SELFIE, but also what is next, because SELFIE is not the end of the story. Actually, we developed on 2014, 2015, a conceptual model that we call DigCob.org, Digitally Competent Education Organizations. And this was the theoretical part, let's say. We analyzed several models, conceptual models, frameworks, and so on. We developed this conceptual model, and we published it in 2015, on December. This framework was quite comprehensive, having 7 areas, 15 sub-areas, and 47 descriptors. Because we tried with this conceptual model to cover what does it mean to be digitally competent as an organization for all kinds of education organizations, from primary schools up to universities. And this framework was also translated in many languages, in Spanish, Estonian, in many languages. Then we started this work in order to translate this conceptual part in something that is more, let's say, concrete, a tool that schools can use in order to self-reflect on the use of digital technologies for learning. Because it's very important to have a conceptual part, a conceptual model, in order to have a common understanding, the common language. But then we need something more concrete, you know, a tool that you can apply in order to see if your education organization is digitally competent or not. And of course, the theoretical model can be generic to cover different kinds of education organizations, as I said, from primary schools up to higher education institutions. But the tool itself can be more specific. That's why we decided to start from schools, and that's why we're developing a tool for schools this time. But if you see the slide, also, this is not the end of the story, because you need to have the theoretical model, you need to have a tool to self-reflect and see where you are and to plan where you would like to go. But also you need something more afterwards, because you need training, support, to create an ecosystem around this in order to be able to achieve your targets.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that everybody saw the slide you wanted to show us. So we saw the origins, how did it appear. But I would like to also make you another question. Is what makes SELFIE different compared to other similar tools? And so what does it make it so special?
Yeah, okay, it's a fair question. It's true that in order to, before starting developing SELFIE, we made the same question to ourselves. We ask ourselves, do we need a new tool? Okay, and first of all, we analyzed what is out there, what are the existing tools and frameworks, okay, and found that we have several very nice tools in several countries, but some of them lack sustainability, so they appear for some years and then they disappear, or some of them were more specific for the infrastructure and this and that. So that's why we found that we need something that's more holistic in its approach. And also, we wanted to address another important issue, that schools across Europe, but also in the same country, have many things in common, but also have a lot of differences, you know, a different context, different needs. So you cannot use exactly the same tool in order to cover all these different settings, different needs. That's why we decided to develop a tool that follows a quite innovative approach, and I can explain this using my toys here. That's why we decided to create a tool that allows each school to customize the tool based on their own needs. So, if I may, I can explain what I mean. Okay. So, in SELFIE, we have some basic information about each school. Then we have some items, some indicators that are the same for all, what we have in common. Okay, all schools across Europe, big schools, small schools, in different settings. Okay, so this is the core elements that appear and are valid for all schools. But then we give the opportunity to schools to select some items from a list with predefined items. But this is the real innovation, this yellow part here. that we give the opportunity to schools to add their own indicators, their own items. So, for instance, if you are a school that have a program in robotics, or you have a lot of many refugees and immigrants, and you use technologies in order to communicate with these students, for instance, okay? Then you can add a specific question about the specific use of new technologies for learning. Also, for vocational schools, or if you are a special school for arts, for vet, for this and that, you can have also some special questions. So at the end of the day, each school has a different SELFIE, you know, with the same base, but then it's adaptable, it's modular. And this is the real, let's say, innovation of SELFIE, what makes SELFIE different from the existing tools. We have some other innovations also, or let's say some other characteristics that makes SELFIE quite different, in the sense that we involve not only school leaders and teachers, but also students, because many of the tools we analyzed get the input about the digital competence, digital capacity of the school, based on the input by school leaders or school leaders and teachers, and very few of them also take into account the viewpoints of students. But when we speak about the use of digital technologies for learning, the viewpoint of the students is very important.
Okay. Now, yes, I have the microphone on. So, what kind of information can educational centers use in the tool? Which roles are included? You talk about the roles of the student, for example, etc. But which kind of information can they use?
Listen, the idea is quite simple. The idea is that we have a different set of questions for these different three user groups, okay? But these questions, in most of the cases, appear, most of the questions appear to all the user groups. And these questions are based on the DISCO-BORG model that is quite holistic. In the DISCO-BORG model, we have items about leadership and governance, about teaching and learning practices, about assessment, about networking, collaboration, infrastructure, many different things. Because at the end of the day, SELFIE is not about technology. SELFIE is about learning for the digital age, okay? And this is also very well reflected in the items we put in SELFIE. These statements, these questions we have in SELFIE for school leaders, teachers, and students are about how they use digital technologies to collaborate with each other, to evaluate the learning, to communicate with each other, to, you know, to do all these different things using new technologies. And the good thing is that taking all this input from school leaders, teachers, and students, the system then can put all this information together and they can provide at the end a school report when we present all this information in a quite comprehensive way with graphics and other ways. And then using this report, the school community can sit together and start a dialogue to see where they are and to plan when where they want to go. You know, that's why also we use this name, the SELFIE, because it's like a real selfie. You take this information to produce an image to see how and where you are right now.
Yeah, so it's like a snapshot is a picture of the situation.
Exactly. And that's why also the idea is that you do SELFIE once per year. So you do your SELFIE this year, you analyze the data, you start a dialogue, and you say, okay, from all these different indicators, this year I would like to focus and improve those two. Okay, next year we do again the SELFIE, and maybe next year we are in some indicators in a better position, but in some indicators in a lower position. Because you know that the schools are a very dynamic organization. This year we have these students, these teachers. Next year we have changes. We don't say that every year we go to another level, but every year you know where you are, okay? And you can compare also with the previous year, like in a real SELFIE.
Yes, that's it. I don't know if then there would be cases where maybe they will going to use more technology, but maybe they have a lack in other parts, and they will also see this relation.
All the statements is about the use of technology. So
Yeah.
this is not a tool that will measure how many computers you have
Okay.
and this and that. No, it's about how well you use the technologies you have at your disposal. Because, for instance, as I said, I have a strong background as a teacher, and I used to do a lot of interesting and creative things with my students using very old technology. For instance, I used to use the recording application in the previous version of Windows, an asset version of Windows, in order to help my students to read better. Because in this, with this recording application, they were be able to see the waves of their voice when they was reading, and then to visualize their reading skills, for instance. So sometimes it's a matter of the use of what you have available. It's not that, okay, I don't have the most modern, device, so I'm not able to do things. That's why the focus of SELFIE is on learning and what you can do with the available technology. And trust me, you can do amazing things even with basic technology. And on the other hand, you can have the most updated and super duper,
classroom full of devices.
And then to use it in the most traditional and conventional and less effective way.
Yeah. Totally agree. So now I would like to focus in the development of the tool. Okay, so how has it been, and which is the status of the development at the moment?
Yeah, and this is also very important, and in my understanding, this is also one of the innovations behind SELFIE, because normally we have a team of experts sitting in a laboratory, creating something, and then give it, releasing to the schools. In our case, we follow a totally different approach. So, as soon as we had the conceptual framework ready and validated by experts and the educational community across Europe, we ran a big user consultation survey this January 2017. So we went to the schools, to real schools in 5 countries, 100 schools in 5 countries, in Spain, Italy, Estonia, Denmark, and Ireland. And we asked real teachers from real schools and real students and real school leaders. And we said, look, this is what we have in the conceptual model. What is missing? What does make sense? What we have to include and what we don't have to include in a tool that will capture the digital capacity of a school. And we collected 5,000 replies, including 3,400 comments that we analyzed all this input. And based on this input, plus collaborating with a panel of experts, more than 60 experts from 14 countries, we developed this prototype. What we are piloting right now, today is the last day of the data collection process, is the beta version of the tool. It's not the final version of the tool, okay? So after this consultation survey with the 5,000 replies, questionnaires, we developed with the collaboration of these experts the prototype of the tool, and we went now again to the schools, 600 schools from 14 countries, and we asked again, look, this is the prototype of the tool. What we have to improve? What we have to change? So tomorrow we close the pilot phase, let's say, mainly the data collection process of the pilot phase. We are very happy because our target was to collect 25,000 questionnaires, and we have already 67,000, so much more than our initial target. And from tomorrow, we are starting the analysis of all this data. And that includes also questions about the usability, the language, and so on. And then we expect early next year to have the consolidated final version of the tool. And this international team of experts was also responsible to translate and adapt the tool in the context of these 14 countries that take part in the pilot implementation. Because it's not enough to find a professional translator and to ask him or her to make a translation. You have to adapt it to the local needs, to find the right terms, the right terminology, and you know, to do all this stuff. So we have a very good collaboration with ministries of education, with experts, with agencies in these different countries. And this is the real also power behind SELFIE. That is not something that we are developing just as a European Commission, JRC, and DG Education and Culture. It's also an international panel of experts.
Yeah, I see. It's you said that you had 67,000 already schools. No.
600 schools
600.
and 67,000 questionnaires submitted by school leaders,
Whoa.
teachers, and students of these schools.
Okay.
So 67,000 users.
Users, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
That's it. Wow, it's a lot. And then how the analysis? I imagine that you will use it a program or something to analyze all that. It's a lot of information, and it's just the beginning.
Yeah. And actually, we are going to do two things right now. One thing is that the system is going to generate the report, one report for each school. Okay, because for each school we are going to have a different report that only the school has access to this report. Nobody else can access and see the data of this specific school. This is another important design principle for SELFIE, that the school owns 100% the whole process. So, like in the real SELFIE, that you take your selfie and you have control, you can delete it, you can decide to share with some friends or to share with everybody in the social media. The same is true with the SELFIE report. You can keep it for yourself as a school community, or you can share with some, for example, the parents or with everybody. So one thing is to generate the school reports for each one of these 600 schools that participated in the pilot implementation. And we have also analyzed all this input from these 67,000 questionnaires in order to see if some items does work well, if we need to make any change, you know, in the content, or if we need to make any change in the digital infrastructure, in the usability and so on. So we have a lot of work.
Yes.
But also we are very excited to dig in the data and see all this information.
That's right. So, well, we have talked about the development, and you were talking that there was a pilot, and then when will it be available approximately for schools, so they can start using it? Can you give a approximate date?
Yes, the idea is that, okay, first I have to clarify something. This time we did the pilot implementation in September. Although we know that September is not the ideal period for schools. Schools are very busy. It's the starting of the new school year and so on. But because not, let's say, our choice. The idea is to have the tool ready by March 2018, and then to be able to run a second phase on April, May 2018.
Okay, April, May. Okay, good. So I'm sure that they will find this interesting, the audience, so they know more or less, and they can think, okay, so next year I will be able to use at a time, and maybe for beginning of the next academic year, they can have that into account and think, or start thinking from at this moment. Maybe they can start thinking, okay, yes, we have to start thinking how do we have to structure a school, how we have to change this and become a digitally competent education organization.
Yeah. The idea is that you can do your self-reflection with SELFIE, ideally on April, May. So then next year you can repeat it and so on. In this case, April, May, you can involve the whole school community, because at this pilot, because we started on September, it was difficult to involve the teachers in the school that are new to this school, for instance, or the first graders and these kind of things. Yes, but the plan is next year, April, May, to have the tool available and the schools can use it. Of course, we have to discuss and decide in which countries we will run this implementation next year. The tool is available now in 12 languages, in English and 11 more languages. And we'll see, we have to take these decisions as soon as we have the final version of the tool.
I'm really interested in the tool itself. So maybe it's time to know a bit more in detail how it looks like. So can we have a closer look to SELFIE? Can you share it with us?
Yeah, okay. I can share the screen with you. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the dashboard of the administrator of SELFIE. So you can see here that you can see all the schools that we have in the system. Mm-hmm. Some of these schools offer more than one education level. For instance, this school offers primary and lower secondary. And for us, these are two different schools, you know. Mm-hmm. So here we have the list of the schools. We can invite the schools to join us and test SELFIE. And as soon as one school receives an invitation, can create an account, and here can join the system. I will use one of the demo schools I have created. Give me a second. I have to say here something about the school coordinators, as we call them. In each school, we have one person that is the school coordinator for SELFIE. It's the person that can enter the system using the official email of the school. In SELFIE, we don't use any personal, we don't record any personal information, only the name and the email of the school. And then the school coordinator can enter the system and can have access to the dashboard of the school coordinator. When he or she can see the data of the school profile, as we call it, can download here a guide that explains the whole process, can also download a certificate of participation for the school coordinator. And here you can see the three steps he or she has to follow. The first step is to review and update the school data. What does it mean? He or she has to update the numbers of school leaders. That for us is not only the school head or deputy head, but also other teachers or staff members that can take initiatives and have a more active role in some areas. Then the number of teachers and a number of students for this specific school year, okay? Yeah. Then you save this. The next step that now is not available because the self-assessment process is ongoing, but you can do it before you start your self-assessment, is to select the predefined items. So here we have a list of items that you can choose, and if you want to include in the self-assessment of your school. And here in the other, on the right, you have the ad hoc items, the items that you can add to the system. As I said earlier about robotics, about other uses of digital technologies. And then as soon as you have customized the surveys of your school, you can generate 3 links. One link is for the school leaders of your school, one for teachers, and one for students. And as I said earlier, no one from school leaders, teachers, or students have to provide any personal information. The school coordinator can distribute these links. You can see now, you can open the link and have a look in the survey for teachers. That at the beginning we have some information, also the privacy statement, what happened when someone replies the questionnaire. some other key information about the duration of the process and so on. And then we have the real questionnaire. So in order to have access to this questionnaire as a teacher of this school, I need only the link. I don't need to provide any other personal information. So it's completely anonymous, and I can tell whatever I think about the use of technology in my school. And always here we have some answer options that if you put your mouse over, you can see what does it mean. Always one means no, I don't do this, we don't have this. And 5 is yes, we do it, we have it, we are in the highest level in this specific item, you know. And then you can choose your answers, you can read any statement. For each statement, there is also some additional text if you need it, with examples, with definitions, with more information. So you can select your answers, you read the statement. As I said, if you need some additional information, you click on the I button. And you can see that we have different sections in this questionnaire. If we have some ad hoc items appear in a specific, in a separate section. And at the end, we have one section with some very basic information about you, about the gender, the age, and how many years you are in this school. And at the very end, the last section is about the tool itself. We ask the participants of this pilot phase to provide us feedback about the tool, how easy it was to navigate, to find guidance, understand the meaning of the statements, if they will recommend it to another colleague or not, how long did it take to them to complete. And this is very, very important also. Any other comments about the online tool? If they can give us any suggestion, any ideas, any other comment about the tool in order to improve it and have at the end of this process something that's more useful and relevant to the schools. As soon as you reply to all the statements, the submission method that now is deactivated will be activated. And then by clicking the submission, you will have another screen with the thank you message and also a link to download your certification of participation. And this is it. It takes, according to our measurements, it takes more or less 40 minutes for school leaders and teachers to fill in the questionnaire, and for students, no more than 20 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I see. I have a question for you. Is this the development or the questions? Is it that the tool, for example, is it closed? Are you going to modify it through the years? Are you going to let's see, is it going to evolve? Is it going to be modified, or will it stay like this? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, of course. Yes, it's true that the plan is that we can modify some of the statements maybe year by year, because we know very well that technology is evolving very rapidly, and all the time you need to adapt to the new things. But of course, we don't expect to have radical changes, but year by year to have some improvements. We can add some items, we can remove some others that are not relevant anymore. Of course, yes, we have foreseen a process like that.
Okay, yes, that's something I have in mind, because technology, as we just say, it changes very fast. And we have seen that there are some questions, but there are other questions that can be modified by the users or by schools.
Yes, any school coordinator at the beginning enters the system, modifies the surveys, and then generates the links and distribute to the people. So each school at the end of the day has a different combination of selfie items. Yeah. Of course, as I said, always there is a basis that's the same for all. These items, you cannot change them, but you can select some items, you can add some others. So at the end of the day, you have something in common, but you have also your own stuff.
That's good. And I think we have maybe it's time to get some of the questions. I know that there is one from one user. I have it here. Yes, it's a question from Deborah Arnold. Is that she says that we hear a lot about selfie for schools. Would there be a different version for higher education, and if so, when?
Okay, this is a very good question, very good point. And actually, we have a lot of requests by Spanish universities, universities from Ireland, from Finland, and from Greece to develop something also for higher education. And unfortunately, our resources are limited, so we're not able to do it in parallel. But we're thinking to do something also for higher education in the next year. But first, we have to finish with this pilot to see how big will be the next phase of Selfie for Schools and what are the resources we need to do something for higher education. Because in theory, you can do something very similar, having the faculties of higher education institution as an educational, organization, and you can use again the school leaders, the teachers, the professors, and the students of this faculty, and have something very similar. And most of the items, because we have done already some background work, most of the items work also well for higher education. But as I said, we don't have the resources to do both in parallel. But there is a lot of interest, and let's see if next year we are able to do something in this for the higher education.
In that direction, yes, because the same question that this part that Deborah has, I have others, like for example, if in language schools or Center for Adult Education, special education, teacher professional development centers, if these spaces can use them.
Yeah, this is the idea. That's why we follow this modular approach. It's very easy, as we have done now for initial vet education, and we have a set of items that are only for vet schools that are in our pilot. In the next phase, for example, you can have another set for art schools, sports schools, language schools, and so on. So the system is very adaptable, and you can do this. Of course, you can use also these ad hoc items in order to put something more specific for your context. But this is something we can easily do. The only issue, as I said, is the resources, because we don't have unlimited resources to do this development. And everything new requires more people to work on this, and this is the only limitation. The design of the tool has been done in a way that can be expanded, can have different modules in order to cover all these different needs.
We have another question. It's like, can it happen that the schools have a new question that is repeated in another one that is not visible? So, for example, they add something, but then they find that there's the same question is in the form already.
In theory, yes, but the idea is that the school coordinator first has a look in what is already there, and he or she can add something that is not already in the system. Yeah, this is the idea. Okay. Also, for us, it's very important to see, because we are going to analyze the items that the schools have added. If we see that there is an item that many schools has already added as an ad hoc item, maybe we have to put it in the next round in the predefined list of items to make.
Welcome to a new virtual meeting on DirectoINTEF. Wait a second. This event is part of the INTEF titled Legally Competent Digital Organization. And look.
Sorry?
I cannot. Yes, hello. Sorry. I have another question here, Pam, which is also interesting. It's how it's the Joint Research Center. How are you going to work to organize the schools collaboration? How is this work? It's the Joint Research Center. How are you going?
Okay. May I reply now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. This is a very, very important point. As I said earlier, it's not only European Commission, Joint Research Center and DG Education Carto that is developing the tool. We have with us a panel of more than 60 experts from these 14 countries. And this is very important because all the time, when we have implementation of SELFIE in one specific context, we need a local collaborator, you know, someone that can conduct the schools, can support the schools, can do the training of the school coordinators, and do all the, you know, this additional work. So far, we have very good collaboration with people in these 14 countries. That some of them are from the ministries like in INTEF in Spain, the Ministry of Education, but also people from the community of Madrid, community of Castilla y León, local consultancy. In other countries, we have people from ministries again, or from agencies, of research centers, a variety of collaborators. And these people play this crucial role. First, to adapt, translate and adapt the tool to the local needs. Then to conduct the schools, and then to run seminars or webinars in order to explain the philosophy of the tool, the use of the tool, and all these things to the participating schools. That's why this is the model we would like to follow next year, to have some collaboration with agencies, ministries, you know, local organizations that will collaborate with us in order to have the implementation of SELFIE in specific countries or regions of Europe.
Mm-hmm. That brings me also to another point. The tool is in different languages, yeah, but maybe they are not in all the European languages. Can the schools translate these?
All the time. Yes, as I said, so far we have 12 languages. Okay,
yeah.
And the idea is that if we have a collaboration with someone, it's not just one school. It's one ministry, one agency, one bigger organization that will take the responsibility to translate and adapt the tool to the local language. Mm-hmm. And then for us, it's very easy to add another language in our user interface. It's very easy process. But we don't do the translation because, as I said earlier, it's just a matter to give the materials to the professional translators of European Commission, ask them to do the translation. Because you need people that know the education field of this specific country. They need to adapt the tool. You need education experts to do this, you know? Mm-hmm. So to have a translation that is valid. Mm-hmm. That's why we follow this process. We ask to have collaboration with the local people to do the adaptation and all this. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, it's an adaptation, but it has to be through local authorities or official place. They cannot change it themselves. The schools cannot change the translation. Cannot change it. No, but when we do this translation process, we foreseen that when we have the prototype of this translation, we run a pilot with 1-2 schools to see if the translation is okay. Yeah. You can make changes easily, but yes, as soon as we start.
with this, I think that you avoid the problems in the translation and that it's not as efficient as it should for us.
In the system, we have a very simple process. When we have an issue with this translation, we just upload the new file, and this is it. It's very easy process to adapt the translation, because we know that sometimes we have new terms, you know, or we spot a type or something. So it's something we can easily do. Yeah.
Okay. I would like, we have seen the tool, we have seen the process. We have seen that there are many schools that have 600 schools that have participated for the moment, which is, they are mainly from, have you seen if they were from a specific area of Europe, or you have seen that maybe there's more interest in a specific country in this topic?
Actually, no. Actually, we have schools from 14 European countries.
14.
So yeah, 14. These schools come from all these countries. The biggest number of schools are in Italy. We have also many schools in Spain, in Malta, in Serbia. Also in Russia, we have a collaboration with UNESCO Institute for Information Technology and Education. So we have also schools from Russia, but also have schools from Finland, Ireland, Northern Ireland, Estonia, Greece, Cyprus, Flanders, Belgium also, many countries. As I said, in our web page, we have a map with all these 14 countries and how many schools from each country are participating in the pilot implementation. Yeah.
Yes,
when I say schools, it's primary schools, lower secondary, upper secondary, and initial VET, initial vocational education training schools. Four types of schools so far.
On this, the information for these schools, it's it only says that the school has participated, but it doesn't give any information about the school, isn't it?
No. Only the school can say that, look, I participated in SELFIE. What we are going to do next week is to, in collaboration with INTEF, the Ministry of Education in Spain, to issue to these schools a digital certification, something like an open badge, saying that they took part in SELFIE. But it's up to them to put it in their web page or to make it public. One school can participate without anyone to know about this. As I said, they have full control on this process. So we're not going to put a list with the names of the schools, for instance. No. It's up to them to say, look, I'm one of the first schools that tested SELFIE.
Yes. And the information that they submit, I imagine that where does it stay? I mean, can they decide to delete it?
Yeah, they have full control.
They have full control.
Also, another thing, yeah. So as I said, by the end of October, they will receive their, let's say, SELFIE, the school SELFIE, their results, and they have full control. They can use this report with their results to start a dialogue among the school community, to make their planning, and so on. But if they decide, they can just delete it, or maybe they want to share this report with others. It's up to them. It's totally up to them. And they are the only ones that have access to this report. No one else can have access to these results.
Okay. Do you know any other, because we have seen the tool SELFIE, do you know if there's any activity related to SELFIE? Are you going to, I think that in February you are going to present SELFIE or some results in Brussels?
In January we are going to have the first education summit organized by the European Commission, and we have received an invitation to present SELFIE there. On January, we are also going to organize a workshop here in Seville, inviting the national coordinators we have in these 14 countries, plus one school coordinator per country, to discuss their experience for this pilot implementation and so on. And then, of course, we plan to have the consolidated tool ready by next March. Yeah, so there is a lot of activity, but also, as I said at the beginning, when we try to see this slide, we have with the three different steps, let's say, or pillars. We have the conceptual model, we have the self-assessment tool now, but then we hope that an ecosystem will be evolved around SELFIE, because things like the MOOC that organized now by INTEF, that is about DigiCowork and SELFIE, helps a lot of people to understand the philosophy, the holistic approach, all this stuff. And we expect to have more initiatives like this in the future, you know. So this is very, very important. But all these things are something you cannot foresee, you know. The MOOC was an initiative by the INTEF, and we are very pleased and very happy about this. We collaborated with the people from the ministry in Spain, and I think it's a great initiative, and we hope to have similar things like that. Because as soon as schools receive this report and know where they are, they need some support, some training, some good practices, some additional materials in order to go further. Because at the end of the day, SELFIE is just a tool that gives you a snapshot, as you said earlier. And then you need also some other things in order to go further and have a better use of digital technologies for learning that is more effective and relevant for our digital age.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, you have done a good summary right now of the tool. We have seen that it's a snapshot of what's the situation at the moment.
Yeah.
Schools can use it for will be able to use it for free, and it will be next year they will probably be able to start using it.
Yeah. And we developed this tool, as I said, using a participatory design model. As I said, we had this user consultation survey. Now it's a pilot implementation. Then we are going to have the consolidated tool. So it's not something that we developed in our laboratory without taking into account the real needs of the schools. So we see the people that participated in this process, the 67,000 school leaders, teachers, and students, as contributors to SELFIE. So SELFIE is not something that the European Commission developed. This European Commission took the initiative, put the resources, but together with the international panel of experts and all these thousands of school leaders, teachers, and students, we are developing together something, you know.
That's good. So I have only the last question, but I don't know if it's too early to know it. Did you receive any feedback from these schools, these pilot schools that worked that used the tool, like these last weeks? Have you received any feedback from them? Have they sent you any message? Or?
Yeah, yes, because we have an email address that they contact us in case they face any problem and technical issue and so on. And some of them, they replied already saying, look, it was quite interesting. And we have also some quite positive feedback about the usability of the tool. It's quite clean and easy to run it and so on. And for some schools, this is I found very, very interesting. They said that it was like you know, a learning process when they saw that okay, digital technologies is not just infrastructure. You have to think about their use in a more holistic and complete way. You know, and this is what the tool somehow allows you to do. To think that okay, it's not enough to have devices in a room. Then I have to think about the content, about all the other aspects, you know.
Yes, that's it. So I think it has been a very interesting virtual meeting with you. We have seen a SELFIE tool which evaluates learning and it collects different information, different level of strategies, teaching practices, infrastructure, etc. We have seen that the schools will be able to see which is the status or what's the situation at the moment in the schools, and probably from it's a starting point to see which direction do they have to go. It was a pleasure to be with you today. So thank you, Pan, for being today with us.
Thank you, Victor, for the invitation and for this interesting discussion. And as I said, for us, SELFIE is just a tool that we hope to be useful for schools across Europe. We know that how difficult is their work, everyday work, and we would like to support them in order with a tool that doesn't take so much of their valuable and limited time to give them, a better idea, a more holistic view about where they are. And as I said, then they can discuss, and it's up to them to decide if they want and if they can to make some changes and so on. But it's up to them.
Okay, so thank you very much, Pan. The last thing I would like to also thank all the ones that are watching us online, that are there. I hope that you found fruitful, this session fruitful. This is all from our side. So I hope to see you soon, Pan.
Thank you. I would like also to thank all the participants, but also the people from Spanish Ministry of Education, the INTEF and the Duca Lab for their great job. They are doing an excellent job. We have a very good collaboration. And I would like to thank them for the initiative to develop the MOOC, but also for this opportunity to explain a bit further about the philosophy of the tool, its design principles, and all this. For me, it's always a pleasure to be among education experts and teachers and so on. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you. I am sure that they are listening to us. So, so that's it. That's all from my side. So thank you very much and have a nice evening.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.